Alright, in this video lesson we're going to solve proportions which involve some variable either in the numerator or the denominator, and we're going to try to undo this problem so that we get rid of our fraction. That's basically the goal. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cross multiply these two things. So we have 4 times m, which is just equal to 4m. So we have 4m is equal to, now we're going to cross multiply the other numerator and denominator, and we're going to get 18. Okay? Now, since we're trying to solve for m, we're going to divide by 4, and we're going to get m is equal to 18 over 4. Of course, you know that both of these can be divided by 2, which would mean that fraction reduces to 9/2. Alright, let's review our calculator here. So we're going to turn this calculator on, and we're going to see if this fraction doesn't reduce. So recall that the alpha button and the y equals will give us our numerator denominator, and we can just type in that original 18 over 4, and it'll reduce for us automatically. So we have 9/2 as our answer. Alright, let's move on to the next problem. Same type of problem, but you notice that there's a negative sign out in front. So a little word about this. There's only one negative sign. You can either move it up to the numerator, which would be the 3, or you can slide it down to the 4 on the denominator. Either way, you're going to get the same answer. So I like to move it up to the top, and we'll do this one in blue. So now that I move that up to the top, I have x times negative 3, which is negative 3 times x. And then go in the other direction, we have 7 times 4, which is, of course, a 28. And now instead of dividing by 3, we're going to have to divide by that negative 3. So divide that side by negative 3, divide that side by negative 3. And we have negative 28 over 3. Alright, of course you could check that with a calculator to make sure that that fraction does not reduce. And let's just type in negative 28 over 3. And it doesn't reduce at all. So there's our final answer on that one. Alright, let's move on to number 5. Okay, number 5, you see a difference here is that you don't just have the variable k here in the denominator, you have a k plus 2. So what I like to do is just to sort of put a parenthesis around there, just to illustrate the fact that whenever I cross multiply, I'm multiplying 5 by k, but I'm also multiplying 5 by 2. So each member inside of this denominator gets 5 multiplied by it. So we have 5 k plus 2 equals, and now we're going to cross multiply the other fraction part, 4 times 9, which is 36. And now what we're going to do is go ahead and distribute, and we're going to get 5 times k plus 10 equals 36. And we're going to subtract 10 from both sides, and we'd get 36 minus 10 is 26. 10 minus 10 is 0, so we have 5k. And divide by 5 to get rid of that, and we get k is equal to 26/5, which we'll leave that just the way it is. Alright, let's move on to number 7. It's a similar problem to number 5, but we do have a slight problem here, which we talked about earlier. The fact that we have one negative sign right here. Well, you can choose to move it to the top or the bottom. I choose to move it to the top. It just makes things a little easier here. So now notice that in the denominator we have this b minus 10. So cross multiplying again, we get 9 times 6, which is 54, but we have negative 54 because 1 negative times 1 positive is negative. And now we're going to cross multiply, and we're going to get 7 times b minus 10. distributing 7, we get 7b minus 7d. So we're going to just put this right underneath here. 7b minus 7d. Alright, so let's continue with this problem. So we're going to add 70 to both sides. Add 70. And let's go ahead and just use the calculator for that. We have negative 54 added to 70. And that looks like it's going to give us a positive 16. Alright, so we have 7b is equal to a positive 16. And now we're going to divide by 7. So we can get b all by itself. Cancels out, and we get b equals 16 over 7. Once again, if we want to double check to make sure that's the lowest fraction that we have possible, we're going to put it in our numerator-denominator format just to double check. 16 divided by 7, it's still 16/7. Okay. Alright, let's take a look at number 9. Number 9, we notice that this is a little bit different because now we have the variable x and we have it in two locations, right? You see there's an x here and there's an x right here in this denominator here. So let's just start cross multiplying. Alright, let's do 10 multiplied by x plus 10. Alright, it takes care of that one. And then we multiply 7 times x, we get 7x. Alright, now if we distribute, we have 10x plus 10 times 10 is 100 equals 7x. Alright, so now we can move the x to the right by subtracting 10x. And we would be left with 100. 10 minus 10x is 0. 7 subtract 10, negative 3x. Okay? And then we're going to divide everything by not 3, but by negative 3. And we would get x equals negative 100 over 3. And that's our final answer on that one. Alright. Let's go ahead and take a look at let's move on to number 13. We'll do 13 and 15. Same type of problem, but now the variables are over on one fraction. And you'll notice that they both have either a number added or subtracted to it. So let's go ahead and cross multiply. We have 5 times b minus 7 equals, cross multiplying the 10 to the b plus 6, we get 10 times b plus 6. And if we stick with the colors here, we'll have 5 times b and 7 times 5. Subtract 35. Okay, then we have 10 times b plus 10 times 6 is 60. And now we're just going to combine our b's. Alright, now does it matter where we solve for b, on the right or left hand side? Notice the quantities here. You have a positive 10 and a positive 5 on the left. So it makes sense to me that if we subtract 5b from 10b, our b quantity is going to be positive, right? So 5 minus 5 is 0. So we still have our negative 35. 10 subtract 5 right here is 5b. And we have plus 60. Okay. Now, let's subtract 60. Subtract 60. Be careful right here. Anytime you're subtracting negatives and positives, just use the calculator to double check it. So we're going to try that. Negative 35. Subtract 60. and that's equal to negative 95. Alright, and this becomes 0, so we have 5 times b, and of course we're going to just divide that up. Divide that by 5, divide this by 5, divide this by 5, and using the calculator once again just to make sure we don't make a mistake, we have negative 95 divided by 5, and of course that's a negative 19. So there's our final answer. B is equal to negative 19. Alright, last problem in the set. Number 15, sorry. Same type of problem, right? Let's see if we can handle this one okay. Alright. Move it up a little bit for us. Alright, cross multiply once again. We have our 2 times m plus 8, and that's going to be equal to 9 times m plus 4. Remember, everything in this m plus 4 needs to be multiplied by 9. So let's move right along. We have 2m plus 2 times 8, 16, equals 9m plus 36. Alright, same type of problem here. We're going to subtract 2m. Subtract 2m, and we get 16 is equal to 7m plus 36. Moving our 36 over by subtracting, and we get 0 here, and 16 minus 36 gives us negative 20. So we have negative 20. Right, that was negative 20 right there. Equals 7m. Alright. Last step and we'll be done with this. Divide by 7, and m is equal to negative 20 over 7. Okay, now finish the rest of the worksheet on your own, and best of luck to you.